The last retreat. It was supposed to be the perfect vacation. 5 of us had won an exclusive retreat to Azure Cove Resort, a secluded island with golden beaches, lush forests, and an all-inclusive experience. No phone service, no distractions, just relaxation. We arrived by private yacht, greeted by a group of smiling staff in white linen outfits. They took our bags, handed us cocktails, and led us through a tour of paradise. Everything felt like a dream. The first day was nothing but pleasure, gourmet meals, endless drinks, and an ocean so blue it looked fake. We swam, laughed, and planned excursions. The staff was too accommodating, their smiles a little too wide, their eyes lingering just a second longer than normal. But we brushed it off. We swam, laughed, and planned excursions, snorkeling, jungle hikes, bonfires on the beach. The staff waited on us hand and foot, refilling our cocktails before they were even half empty, offering cool towels whenever the sun got too hot. At dinner, we were treated like royalty. A 7-course meal on the open-air terrace, candlelight flickering in the warm breeze. Steaks so tender they melted in our mouths, exotic fruits we'd never seen before, and wine that tasted richer than anything we could afford back home. Everything here is locally sourced, the head chef said with a wink. Nothing goes to waste. After dinner, we lounged by the pool, sipping cocktails, watching the sunset paint the sky in pinks and oranges. The staff stood nearby, smiling, watching. Again, their eyes lingered a little too long, their expressions a little too eager. "You must be exhausted, Elena," the guest coordinator said. "Let us handle everything. Just relax. You are in paradise." She wasn't wrong. The air was warm, the waves lapped gently against the shore, and for the first time in a long time, life felt perfect. We had no idea that by sunrise, half of us would be dead. At sunset was when the screams began. It started in the distance, near the bungalows by the forest. A shriek, sharp and desperate. Then silence. A staff member named Elena noticed our concern and smiled. "Island wildlife," she assured us. "Nothing to worry about." We tried to believe her. That night, I woke up to the sound of crunching. I lay frozen in my bed, listening. A wet sickening tear. A deep guttural chewing. My heart pounded. Slowly, I sat up and looked toward the window. Outside, they were eating my friend Carter. 4 figures crouched around him, their hands pulling at his flesh and intestines, their teeth tearing chunks from his body. His eyes were still open, unblinking. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, run, do anything. But I couldn't. Then, one of them looked up. A long thin man with hollow cheeks and teeth too sharp to be human. His black eyes met mine through the glass. He smiled. And then he stood up. I bolted. I sprinted down the hallway, slamming on my friends' doors. "Wake up! Wake up! We have to go." No response. The entire resort was silent, too silent. I turned a corner, and crashed straight into Elena. Her smile was still there, calm, unfazed. Blood splattered across her white uniform. "Going somewhere?" she asked. I stumbled back. She stepped forward. That's when I noticed something, her fingernails. They weren't nails at all. They were claws. I ran. Down the corridor, through the open courtyard, past the infinity pool. I kept running, not daring to look back. The staff didn't chase me. They didn't have to. Because they knew there was nowhere to go. I ran straight into the jungle. Branches tore at my skin as I stumbled through the darkness. Behind me, laughter. Not normal laughter, low, throaty, hungry. The trees whispered with movement. They were spreading out, circling me. I reached the river. The only way forward was to jump. So I did. The cold water swallowed me whole. I held my breath, letting the current pull me. I stayed under as long as I could, the world above muffled. When I surfaced, I was alone. The jungle was silent. I crawled onto the shore, gasping. Then I heard it. Rustling. A figure emerged from the trees. Not a staff member. It was Emily. Her clothes were torn, her face streaked with tears. She ran to me, shaking. "They're hunting us," she sobbed. "They killed Jackson. I saw them eat him. I want to go home now," she cried uncontrollably. Just then, a spear shot through the air. It impaled her neck, she gurgled. Eyes wide. Clawing at her throat. Then she was dragged back into the jungle. I ran. Again. My legs trembled as I staggered through the underbrush. the pain of exhaustion searing through my muscles. My vision blurred, but I kept going. Then, a sharp whistle. Before I could react, something wrapped around my ankle. I hit the ground hard, the wind knocked from my lungs. My hands clawed at the dirt, but before I could fight, they were on me. 3 of them. They moved fast. Too fast. My arms were yanked back, my wrists bound with thick vines. A sack was thrown over my head. I kicked, screamed, thrashed, but a heavy club struck the side of my skull, and everything went black. I woke up to the sound of laughter. The sack was gone. I was tied to a wooden post in the center of a clearing, surrounded by at least a dozen cannibals. Their sun-wrinkled skin stretched over bony frames, their eyes gleaming with hunger. A fire burned nearby, its flames was licking at a metal spit where a human leg sizzled. The smell of charred flesh made me gag. Elena stepped forward, her pristine uniform now replaced with animal skins. She smiled as she ran a finger down my face. "Oh, you poor thing," she cooed. "So much running. So much fear." She grabbed my ear. I barely had time to react before she sliced it off. A white-hot pain exploded in my skull. I screamed as blood poured down my neck. She held my severed ear up to the fire, letting it sizzle and pop, then popped it into her mouth like a snack. The others cheered. My breathing turned ragged. I pulled against my restraints, but they only tightened. They were enjoying this. "I like my meals fresh," Elena murmured, leaning in. "But first, let's have a little fun." She pressed the blade against my pinky finger. I felt the sharp sting, the slow pressure, then the snap. Pain flooded my body. My vision went white. My stomach lurched as she held up my severed finger, grinning. The others gathered closer. Their mouths salivated. Then, a deep horn blast. They froze. Their heads snapped toward the jungle. Something had distracted them. Something urgent. Elena hesitated. She turned to one of the hunters. "Go check." The moment their attention shifted, I acted. I lunged. Headbutted Elena. The shock made her drop the knife. I grabbed it with my bleeding hand, slashed wildly, cutting my bindings. Then, I ran. Pain burned through me, blood dripping from my missing ear and finger, but I didn't stop. Behind me, Elena roared. "He's escaping. Get him." The chase was on. I tore through the bushes in pain and exhaustion. As I scampered through this jungle with the very remains of strength I could mutter, darkness gradually engulfed me. All I wished for was help. I desperately needed to be rescued, even as I meandered my way through the night and into the dawn of a new day, just hoping and praying to find help somewhere in the forest. At dawn, I found a village. A small cluster of wooden houses near the cliffs. Locals. Maybe they could help. I stumbled into the square, waving my arms. "Help. Please, you have to." They just stared. Dozens of blank faces. Silent. Watching. A woman stepped forward. An elderly villager. She reached out and wiped the blood from my face. Then she licked her fingers. I backed away. The village wasn't a refuge. It was their home. The staff weren't the only cannibals. The entire island was. A deep horn sounded in the distance. The villagers grinned. The hunt was back on. I ran toward the cliffs. The only way off the island was the ocean. Behind me, the cannibals closed in, laughing, howling, their footsteps growing louder. There was no escape. Except one. I reached the edge and looked down. 100-foot drop. Jagged rocks below. Certain death. But behind me, they were coming. So I jumped. The air ripped past me, my body twisting. Then, impact. Cold. Dark. Silence. I don't remember how I survived. Maybe the waves carried me. Maybe the gods took pity on me. But when I woke up, I was on a fishing boat. A group of local fishermen had found me. They spoke no English, but they understood one thing. I was the last survivor. Authorities never found the island, no records of the resort ever existed. My friends were declared missing, their bodies never recovered. No one believed my story. But I know the truth. The resort is still out there, waiting for the next group of unsuspecting guests. And the hunt will begin again.